Hello, Reagan here. So today I'm going to talk about some wire strippers, and these guys are fun. They're like a mechanical wire stripper. I'm also going to look at some heat shrink options as well. These are some just kind of standard, these are pretty standard wire strippers with the different gauge options on them. And they're useful. Pretty useful. Most of these aren't real useful for dollhouse scale. Actually, I will say the first pair has a little adjustment on it, like manual adjustment that makes it pretty decent. These are just some cheap jeweler's pliers that I use for everything. And then this is like a little wire cutter that came with the soldering kit that I have, and it's got like a little razor blade on the bottom there. Once again, not really good for the teeny tiny gauge stuff that we're working with. And for the heat shrink, we have a trusty lighter. Just a cheap one of the little candle ones that I use a lot. And then a butane torch. You can barely see the flame on that, but ooh, does it get hot. This also has a soldering adjustment, like it gets hot. And then this is just a small craft heat gun, which I don't need anything more powerful than this in the house doing crafts. So it works pretty good. Really good for like embossing and stuff too. Useful one. And then these are the heat shrink wrap tubes that I usually buy. They're all different sizes, a big pack, because I use them for all different kinds of projects. And then these are, they have the solder built in, heat shrink, and then they have like a little wax thingy that melts inside too. I don't know if it's actually wax and some kind of plastic or whatever, but it makes them like waterproof or water resistant or whatever. So, and then my handy dandy favorite pair of craft scissors. They're lefty scissors. So yeah, anyway. This is my take you on a trip. I've recently just uploaded a video showing this, and if you notice, the wires are like stupid long. So what I did is I'm just going to cut a section of the wires out, get some junk out of the way so that I can actually turn this thing. My desk is ready and well overdue for a full reset, so there's all kinds of stuff piled up everywhere. My apologies. So I just grabbed all these together, and I used my trusty jeweler's pliers to cut through the whole shebang like this, like so. And then I'm going to do the same thing, excuse me, on the other end, on the battery pack side. So now we have fresh wire, and we're going to give this stripper a go. Now, the problem with this one is that it handles the smaller gauges, which is great for, or bigger gauges, I'm sorry, it handles the bigger gauges, wow. So it's good for like the wire that's on the actual battery pack is a pretty like decent size gauge. I think it's like 22 gauge or 20 or 18 or something like that. I can check. It's 24 according to the strippers. But yeah, like it works. It does its thing. And there you have the insulation stripped. These little guys, okay, so I'm guilty of this. I give a little pinch, I give a little pull, and it's gone. I know not everybody wants to ruin their nails like that, but I've been stripping wire by hand a long time, and that's my standard way to do it. Another way to do it, if you're good with the pressure without like screwing it up, is to just take your scissors and just give it a gentle little like cut into the insulation, and then while it's still closed that much, just give it a pull, and that works quite well too. So that's been my preferred method for the most part, is just to use my scissors. But it takes a lot of practice to get to the point where you're not applying too much pressure and cutting the actual wire. All you want to do is just barely cut the insulation and pull it off. So keep that in mind. Like it's a good practice thing, or it's fine if you have plenty of extra wire to work with in case you goof up a little bit, but don't do that on a crucial project and cut away the wire and then have to like replace it all or something. So yeah. The other thing to note when doing these kits is a lot of the wire, like these, the positive and negative, the coloring is so similar. It's very hard to tell. Like the negative is white and the positive is gray, and so you just have to make sure that you get that correct. Or it's the other way around. No, I believe this one, the positive is gray and the negative is white. But always check your polarity, because it does matter with your LED lights. They won't work if they're on the wrong polarity. And it really sucks when you get everything put together and find out that you didn't have it done right. The last time I put this kit, when I put it together initially, I soldered the pieces together. But I did not do that this time. It's not that big of a deal just because of what it is, but it's recommended for like sturdiness. But with this delicate little wire, like, you know, you gotta be kind of careful anyway. But what I did is I took all of each polarity and I twisted them together, and then I put them with the matching polarity on the battery pack, and that works quite nice. And then make sure, I found that like the easiest way is to kind of like mush them together and then give them a twist, but you know, because you want it to kind of be even, not just a ball of one spot of wire. But sometimes, like with these guys, it's not that big of a deal because it's really low voltage. But just make sure. And see, I even though I use the strippers, I managed to end up with like cutting into the actual wire itself, so I had to like restrip some of that wire for the back so that it's a little bit easier and not missing strands. So this is a heat shrink wrap. I got, this one's a little small, like it'll work, it fit, but normally I'd use a little bit thicker, like the next size up or whatever, but I just grabbed it and really wasn't paying much attention. Sometimes I do that and it really sucks when I'm in the middle of a project and I zone out and end up doing the wrong thing and then have to fix it later. But luckily this works anyway. It's heat shrink wrap, you know what I'm saying? Like, but generally you want it to be big enough to fit comfortably onto the wire without having to force it, because you don't want it to rip. And I mean, it is heat shrink, so it is going to shrink. So you want something that's actually going to have a little teensy bit of play, so that it actually has some room to shrink up and be secure. Because if it's too small, it'll just melt and rip. And if it's too big, it won't shrink enough, and then it won't fit. So you have to look for that Goldilocks zone for heat shrink. So here I'm twisting the wires together, and like I said, all of the same polarity, and all the same polarity on the battery pack. And once that's all squished together, I just put the okay, so you slide this heat shrink wrap over, you connect your ends, and then you slide it along the wire and cover everything up, right? So that it actually works. And then with this, I'm just going to take a lighter, because it's simple and it's easy and it's small gauge and it's a small size heat shrink, and I'm just going to heat it up really fast with a lighter. The other benefits of using a lighter is you don't have to worry about everything behind it. Because like when you use a heat gun or you use a torch, it's putting out heat. It's putting out a lot of heat. And if you're too close to other things, you will melt stuff. It'll suck. You'll not be very happy with yourself. I have one of my cutting mats has a big old bubble in it because it was behind a project and I wasn't paying attention. And I didn't heat it for long and I didn't heat it for much, but it was just a little bit. So you have to be careful with things and be very situationally aware. And of course, it goes without saying, if you're a child, a teenager, younger, not, make sure you're doing this stuff with adult supervision, because it is heat and it is, potentially dangerous. So this is that inline solder piece I was telling you about, that like it has the solder in the middle, and then it has two little like wax bits, and then it's all inside of a piece of like heat shrink wrap that I'm using on this one. So I've already slid it on one side of the wire, and then I'm connecting my ends, and then I'm going to slide it over the opening of the ends, and I'm going to make sure that where the metal two pieces meet is in the middle, and that there's insulation on either side of the solder part inside where the little melty rings are in there. And once again, I picked a pretty small size. It's the smallest size I have, so I probably could have gone a size bigger and it would have been okay. And for this one, you know what? You can do the exact same thing. You can take a lighter and just hit that solder point in the middle. It's a very low temp solder, and even if it's not 1,000%, you've got the heat shrink wrap and you've got the two wax ends, and between that and that, it will all hold everything together just fine. And there you have it. It's connected. Ta-da! I always check everything, make sure, like, you can feel the solder. If you didn't get it melted, it'll still be rigid in there. And yeah, and then of course we have the final reveal. I'm going to hit the button, I promise. I have to put the batteries in first. Oh yeah, and always take out your batteries when you're like soldering and stuff, because I've shorted out mini and LED, and because I wasn't paying attention. I was heat shrink wrapping everything, and I crossed my wires and shorted it all out. So there you have it. Look at that. It works. You're gonna get a front view of this bad boy. I had to you have no idea how long it took me to dust this off, because it got so grungy sitting on the top of my shelf in my living room. And you know, we have like air purifiers, and we go through like these crazy different filters for the air conditioner to make sure that everything's like, the air is good in my house. And I have pets. There's still always going to be dust in here. Anyway, thank you. And yeah, hope you enjoyed.